Hey, friends, thanks for tuning in to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle. I'm your host, as you know, Crander Q, a.k.a. my real name. Now, before we introduce our friend Paul here, I just want to let everyone know who is watching, if you want to come on a future episode and be like Paul and tell your story, look no further. Friends of the Squared Circle is the podcast for you. We want to know why you are a fan of pro wrestling. We want to know about your first event, the first time you met a superstar. So come on our show and let us hear those stories. But before we talk to Paul, let's plug those sponsors over at Overdriver.
Be the change. Join Overdriver at overdriver.org.
Now, Paul, I know you're new to Friends of the Squared Circle. Overdriver has the app for wrestlers to be able to communicate with promoters as well as give them a rating after they have performed at said promotion. It also gives us, the fans, a chance to find wrestling in our area, or if we are on vacation, say in Las Vegas, we can pull up that app and find wrestling when we're on vacation. Paul, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. That's such an interesting thing that there's an app to connect professional wrestlers with promoters. Let's see, what year was it? 2002. I graduated high school 2002 because I'm old. And I went to college, but I always wanted to try to be a professional wrestler.
Okay.
So that first or second year in college, so I lived in Massachusetts at the time. So I went to what was previously the Kowalski School.
Okay.
And I forget what it was called. It turned into, like, they did chaotic wrestling. Chaotic wrestling still going strong, but that was like their home base. So I forget what it was called. But I did a summer camp. And I was bad. I was so bad. I could never train my body to like fall correctly. I was always trying to, like your senses are to protect yourself when you fall, but that's how you get hurt. Like you have to fall flat on your back. And I couldn't do it. And I was in terrible shape. Still am. And I had the 2 years prior to the pandemic, I got in really good shape. I did like not a marathon. I did a 5K.
Okay.
And then the pandemic happened, and it was like going to Culver's literally 3 times a week. Because that's all you could do. You had to eat so you wouldn't go crazy.
Yep.
So still working to get back to that shape. But anyways, back to wrestling. So I was just trying to learn how to do it, not even thinking about the business side. I didn't know. My mind did not even comprehend how you have to like go out and promote yourself and all this stuff. But now, because of the internet, everyone is so aware of the dealings. Like I listen to the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. Those guys are always breaking down what their lives are like being professional wrestlers on the independent circuit. So it's just so funny to me. There's an app now that never would have existed. I mean, there weren't apps probably back. I forget when smartphones first came out, but like, it's so funny, like how if there is a market for something, someone will fill that hole with something to try to make money out of it. Yeah,
shout out to them over at Overdriver, because I was blown away how easy it's going to be for, like I said, the fans. If you're on vacation and you just want to check out the local scene,
that's
cool. You're going to find that local scene without knowing the promotion name, knowing any of the stars, and it's going to help tremendously. And it's also going to break down, like if you're a fan of, I'm not a fan of it, but like death matches or your lucha libre, it's also going to have some
like
filters
select
in
your
it.
preferences.
Yep.
It's like, I want only little person wrestling. I know they call it midget wrestling, but I refuse. I refuse to use the M word.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that is I don't even know where to go with that, but I'm kind of excited. I have to send you the previous episode with Bill. We've had him on to explain the app a little bit more. I'm still learning, and they're still developing that as it goes. But you can sign up at overdriver.org, and they will give you up-to-date information that is coming for that app.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
but just to jump into it, again, I know you are new to the Friends of the Squared Circle. A little friends family, whatever we want to call it here. Yeah, we just want to know about your earliest memories. So if you want to just dive into it.
I was thinking back because listening again, mentioning the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, they always talk about how they collected Hasbro's and LJNs, and they're a couple years younger than me. So like I thought I was a wrestling fan as far back as I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw an LJN in person, and I didn't collect the Hasbro's until like I remember getting Bret Hart at Toys R Us, and he was my favorite guy.
Okay.
But like there was a period before I even was aware of them. So I don't know how I missed them. Like I definitely was collecting toys since, since I remember. So, but for whatever reason, I was not exposed to wrestling toys until a certain point. So I like had some work to do. I had to catch up. But then once I started, I never stopped because you had Hasbro and there was like a downtime before Jax picked it up. But once
Mm-hmm.
Jax picked it up, then we were going full bore.
Oh yeah.
Had Toy Biz jump in there, and then everything just snowballed. And like at one point, I was actually writing for wrestling action figure websites. Like I was
Oh, okay.
ingrained in the DNA of wrestling toys.
Yeah, some of my earliest memories was just seeing it on Sega, thinking it wasn't even real. I just thought that it was characters on a video game, and the kid
Oh
down the
wow.
street had a whole box of them. So for me, it was kind of like, wait, there's action figures for this video game, and then eventually finding it on
Yeah.
TV was kind of eye opening. And it's really weird that like my uncles watched it and they never like showed me it
They didn't
until I
introduce
think
you
I
to it.
probably had a few of the action figures over at my grandparents' house,
Huh.
just playing with them on the floor because I brought toys out there.
Sure.
And then my uncles took me to a few indie shows.
Oh wow.
And now that's my jam. Is like I love going to the indies, but yeah, I thought it was just a video game and had toys to go with it. Just like your Super Mario and your Mortal
Sure.
Kombats and stuff. So
Oh man, I wish that video games had toys back then. Like today, if you walk down the toy aisle at Target, they got Sonic the Hedgehog figures based on those original games. Like they have play sets that look
mhm.
like that first level of the game. But
Yep.
back then, the best we had for Mario were those little PVC non-articulated lumps of nothing that you get like at the video store as promotional toys. Like they didn't really have much.
Mhm.
So I would have loved that if they actually had toys for the video games I was playing.
I mean, I know, I mentioned off camera in the beginning, like I love your reels on Instagram. We got to make sure we plug that stuff because, guys, he is a collector. He knows his toys, like he's saying. It's so crazy how Legos and their engineering is just out of this world. The Harry Potter sets, the Millennium Falcon, hell, Lord of the Rings too. It's like if there is a movie or a universe, they are creating it with Legos and they're making new pieces. In our day, probably it was just the standard 6, 8, and 4 and 2 block, and now
Yeah.
they have these ones that you can like put on the side and build off to the side. It's like one of my favorite shows to watch was that Lego Builders show because these
Master
people
Builder.
literally are making cars that
Yeah.
run. Obviously it's the little engines, but still, it's just amazing what these people can build.
Lego is such an interesting topic because it is so important in terms of the history of toys because there are so many Lego copycats. Like when the patent for their tube system that they use for the blocks that like connect and have that grip, when it went into public domain, you saw all of these other companies like Hasbro created like Creo, they made their own Lego ripoff. Like they're all trying to be Lego using Lego's own plans. But Lego, it hasn't always been like rainbows and sunshine for them. There was the
Mhm.
period, and right around when they got Star Wars and Harry Potter, that they strayed a little too far from what made Lego Lego,
Mhm.
and they were introducing all of these new elements, and it was costly to them. First of all, they had to pay for the IP, and then they're
Right.
making all these other shapes. The way it works is that because they can repurpose these bricks into unique ways. Like look at they do these flowers now. Have you seen these?
Yep.
They're like 1-to-1 flowers, but if you look at the pieces that make them up, it's like Yoda's head, like just like random little
Yep.
things that make up the buds of the flower. It's so funny.
Yep. Yeah, and it would be interesting to see. I know we'll probably never see it, but to stick on topic with wrestling, if they did something with wrestling where you could build that iconic Hasbro, wrestling ring, that would be pretty cool. So if there's anybody listening out there, feel free to steal that idea and just give me credit
Do you
later
remember
on.
Stack Down? Did you have Stack Down?
I did not. Not.
So Stack Down was around like towards the final days of Toys R Us, maybe a little bit
Oh,
before
okay.
that. So what was that, like 2017, 16, 17? Stack Down, it was building, but it's like the main thing was the wrestling figures.
Oh, okay.
So they were more articulated than a Lego figure because they had elbows, they had knees and waist, but their hands were stuck in this weird shape because you could use the front of the hand to stick into a block. So it was like, function over form. It looked weird, but it had to be that way for the gimmick to work. So you could buy sets that included, like, you could build Steve Austin on the what's that little, like, the 4-wheeler he would ride down for that period of time when he was like GM on Raw. And they had like an entrance, and they did like a set with the Shield with like their workout, like the gym.
Wow, okay.
So like they tried. I don't think it really caught on. And then Lego does this really cool thing where fans can submit ideas. I think it's called Lego Idea. And people have submitted the like classic wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, and the ring. They've been submitting it. It's never like passed Lego's test to get made, but like somebody is trying to get that to happen.
That's very. You got my mind just going 1,000 miles an hour here. I'm gonna have to definitely look those up now because that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I liked Legos. I never really built anything because let's just face it, I wasn't very smart with them. So my brother would build all this stuff.
I would do Playmobil.
But I would always,
lazy kid like
I'd always do like the houses, or we'd make garages for the vehicles and stuff. So that was my job with my brother. But yeah, it's too funny. I never knew that they did anything wrestling related with that type of stuff. But
they tried their best. Anyone, like I said, if there is something that someone's not doing, someone's going to try to do it to make money off of it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy how much toys has kind of came back in the mainstream, as well as cards. As soon as it hits the shelf, people are already doubling it online. I know I've talked with my friend King of Old School. I'll have to send you his collection here. It's hard for him to find things that are necessarily available, because the people are just trying to get that quick buck as soon as it comes out.
The flippers are a big problem in every.
Because I was just at a Comic-Con here in Minneapolis, and the new Ninja Turtles that came out. They're literally, at the con. They're still at Target for $10,
right? And
this booth had them for $25 to $30.
Get out of here!
And it's like, these just came out like not even a few months ago, and then I think it's a 4 or 5 pack with April O'Neil, Bebop,
with the
$75, and I'm just like,
well, that one I think is gone, because that was
okay. I've been seeing it at the Target over in the Duluth there. The bottom shelf there, but
there was a variant with the April where, I don't know if it was the first release, but there was a release where her skin tone was much darker.
Oh, okay.
That one is more rare. So if you check eBay, that one actually was selling for quite a bit.
Okay, well, now I'll have to look when I'm there next time, because I know the Splinter shortage or whatever was kind of crazy there. And then I went to our local Walmart, and that's pretty much everything that was on the peg. While the actual turtles were out in the Islander for people to buy, which was, I was like, hey, if anybody needs it, let me know. And nobody wanted. They wanted to hunt in the wild. So, but back to the wrestling podcast. You all can check out Show Me the Collectibles. We'll have to have you on there, Paul, with your guest, or it's not your guest, your partner in your podcast.
Oh yeah,
get you guys on there and talk collectibles for sure. But what was it about Bret Hart that kind of sucked you in?
I do wonder. I can't like point to one thing. It's not like, oh, pink was my favorite color, or I like, and I didn't know. I don't know. So I didn't know he was Canadian, and I think they kind of tried to keep that a secret.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe they must have announced where he was from. Like they weren't like not announcing him, but for whatever reason, I remember finding out he was Canadian and being like, oh, because it's like you want the people you look up to be just like you, and it's like I could grow my hair out and I could be a wrestler, but I can never be Canadian. Like I'm never gonna be like Bret Hart.
Yeah, I always want to know why we hated Canada so much in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like, I just remember
there's no good reason.
I just remember them being like the top heel stable, and I'm like, what? Now looking back, like, why did we hate Canada so much? TNA had the Team Canada.
Team Canada.
Maybe it's because they're better at hockey than us. I don't know.
I think it was just any non-American, and it wasn't so much that we hated it because we knew, like I said, we knew he was Canadian. It's they hated us because we were American, which made them bad guys. So ipso facto, we hated Canada because they were from Canada.
Yeah, because I believe Christian had a stable, the Un-Americans, there for a while.
The Un-Americans with Test and Lance Storm, I believe. Those post WCW days are crazy.
Now, with Bret Hart, did you have any of the merch? I know you said and that stuff. Was there any? Did you get the shades? Did the iconic shades?
Yep. I had the shades, and I had that really cool iconic T-shirt where it's like splatter paint him that like fills the hole. I still have it. It's like in my garage on a baggie. Okay. So I like Bret Hart, but I also like Shawn Michaels. So I had the stupid hat, and I had the red gloves, the fingerless gloves. I didn't realize they hated each other at that point.
Yeah, that's definitely a rivalry for the ages. Now we'll put you on the hot seat because I don't really have a lot of hot takes. Sure. Where would you put the better wrestler, better talker? Who gets the edge in your overall?
So like I think it's hard to deny that Shawn Michaels is the best performer, overall performer. Just look at how many people have tried to emulate him. Like how many times have we heard, oh, this guy is the Dolph Ziggler's the next Shawn Michaels, Seth Rollins, the next Shawn Michaels. There's just something so real about Bret that I think that his style was so important to professional wrestling because, and he even says it now, people like, he'll talk about younger wrestlers and how they do these unbelievable things. And it's true. Like, we don't really care about exposing the business anymore. Like we love it. We love when people like give out secrets on Twitter and all this behind the scenes stuff. But back in the day, you wanted it to feel real. They protected it beyond anything else. Like, look at what happened from the curtain call. Like Vince got so mad at those guys for exposing the business that he punished Triple H, but whatever. He was like Intercontinental Champion like 2 months later. So I don't know how much punished he got, but Bret just made it seem real. And that's not something that we have anymore, whether that's by choice or not. But I think they both deserve to be like placed upon these pedestals in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I think the argument a lot of people will say is that Shawn was the better entertainer, whereas Bret's the better, technical wrestler, obviously. Bret Hart, I'm more of an Owen fan. Me and my buddy have been going back and forth on, that whole shtick. Wow. Bret Hart's actually coming to a local event here in a few months. So we've just been arguing in the chat about that. But, I will say Bret is definitely a guy that I would love to see work like a Daniel Bryan or a Seth Rollins, because I feel like those matches would just be next level. Same with, the Shawn Michaels working with those guys would just be phenomenal, those dream matchups. But
Oh, go ahead.
I was definitely an Owen, guy. I was the younger brother, so I always wanted to see the younger brother beat up the older brother.
Oh, okay. Well, I was an older brother, so maybe that has something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had more Owen figures than I had Bret. I did have the Shawn Michael, the turquoise, bendable figure.
The bone cruncher or the
bone crushers. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
I will so this is probably something I shouldn't say, but like my least favorite aspect of professional wrestling is the wrestling part.
Okay.
Like, I am totally in it for the storylines, and I think that when I say this, that it'll make sense to you. CM Punk is my all time favorite
Okay.
because he is a storyteller. He's not putting on like the best matches. He's not the most athletic guy, but nobody since Bret Hart could talk and make you think that what he's saying is the truth.
Okay.
Not that it's for show, not that it's scripted. This is what he's actually thinking at this moment.
Yeah, we have that's one wrestler that I don't know what it is about him. I can't seem to be a fan. And there's
Oh,
not a lot of
wow.
wrestlers out there that I don't really care for. But I used to go back and listen to Colt's podcast, and then everything that you hear, it just makes me. I'm sure he's like a great guy.
No, I don't. I think he's
you know,
probably the biggest asshole
mm,
there is.
yeah,
But just as like, I'm not paying money to watch nice guys go out there. I'm paying money to be entertained. And
exactly.
he
I can see that.
entertained
Yep.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, me and my buddy JD, he's been on previous episodes. We always ask the question like, what is a match outside of the Taker match that you can really sink your teeth into, fall in love with Punk? And a lot of people haven't really given those to you. Kind of mentioned that, like you said, not the greatest worker, but he can make you believe. And I'll agree with that point. Like he does suck you in with his promos, and going back, some of them make a lot more sense now. But I did like the quote that he said that he's tired and he's working with children. I thought that was pretty great, and
I
hopefully,
think that's pretty true.
I don't want him, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of him, but hopefully he can, have that final swan song to go out in a better way than he's kind of had with AEW. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like he'll be one of those guys that just sort of hangs around forever commenting on the
Yeah.
product. Like he'll maybe pop up here or there, but like I don't think he should be a full-time guy because I don't think he could do it, and I don't think people could work with him like every day or every week.
Yeah, there's a lot of people backstage that do, hold him in high regard. So I mean,
Sure.
and I like to think too that if you are in something and believe in yourself, you do have to kind of think that you are, top brass. So I will give them that. Like I've worked at places where I'm sure other people have too that say, hey, you're not pulling your weight. I am, but you're getting recognition, So, like, I mean, everybody's gone through that, so I can give him credit for that. But yeah, I would like to meet him. You know what I mean? I would love to see how that interaction goes. He's just not one that I'm too high up on, And that's
Let me ask you, who's your favorite wrestler?
You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh. I'm a Rhodes family guy.
Okay.
Goldust was my first favorite wrestler. I don't know what kind of drew me into that corner, but then as he became more involved with Dusty, later on I put two and two together. So like Dusty, Dustin, then obviously when Cody came on, I was like, well, hell, I like dad and son. I got to like little brother, So Rhodes family is where I put my allegiance to, and I was a cruiserweight fan. And then now with Otis in WWE, he's actually from the town that I live in.
Oh, cool.
He is. Those are like my guys right there. Would be Otis, Dustin, Cody, and then all the stars of yesteryear, the Guerreros, the Y2J. Those cruiserweight divisions were mine. So.
Do you have like a current? Do you watch the current product?
I do. I watch a lot of highlights right now because cable's kind of a thing of the past. But I there is a TikTok streamer or two that I will watch. They have clips. I wish I could just get them to be quiet while I watch the clips. But
Yes,
no
I know
offense
what
to
you're talking about. Yeah,
I love their content that they put on there. Like they cut the videos really well.
right.
But when I hear "whoa, oh yeah," it's like calm down. Like it was just a basic
forced.
drop kick.
It's so forced.
So
Yeah.
but. I'm more of an indie guy because I go to a lot of indie shows. Toot my own horn here. I like being more kind of in that environment. Hence the name Friends of the Squared Circle. Met a lot of cool people that way. They've been on this show. It's more personal to talk with the wrestlers, and then you get to see those stars from yesteryears. Like Bret Hart coming into town, or as well as just this past weekend again at the Comic-Con, got to meet Lita and Trish. So seeing those stars that I grew up with and now getting to watch the young guys go through their story, especially a couple friends, Clarkson over in the UK, as well as Jesse Dynamite. They are just starting their careers, so it's kind of cool to watch their journey, go. So,
who are those? You have two Mattel action figures behind you, mint on card.
Up on the top there, that is going to be Arya Davari. He is local from Minneapolis. He was the local champion around here for most of his time. And then obviously he signed with WWE in the 205 cruiserweight there. He was a staple there. And he, to the right, I got the beer cans there. They have a promotion down in Minneapolis called First Wrestling. We talk about it all the time on here. We just love it. And a lot of the guys and gals that have gone through there, you see now like Top Flight on AEW, as well as, Eric Cannon, Darren Corbin. They're kind of the staples down in Minneapolis, which is just a 2-hour drive for me down that way.
So you're in Minnesota. That's pretty close to Canada. Do you get a lot of
Canada? I think would be a couple more hours, but Thunder Bay or whatever it's called is close. I'm at the very tip of Wisconsin, right by Lake Superior. I could walk less than a mile and jump in the lake. So,
do you get the Canadian wrestlers coming down for the indies?
We've gotten Danny Duggan. He's kind of big up there. He runs a promotion. We've gotten another guy, but I think he's based more in this Los Angeles scene when he came through. I'm not sure, but yeah, we get a lot of the local guys from Minneapolis down that way. That's the hotbed. It's got 20-some promotions just in that neck of the woods, and there's more sprouting up as we're talking. So,
is that where the Hennings? Was it Henning?
Yep.
Henning?
So then,
I always thought it was Henning, but Hennig, right?
Hennings. Yep. You've got Kurt Henning. You've got Rick Rude. They were down in Coon Rapids there, which is about half-hour outside of the cities or less.
Coon Rapids.
Yep, Coon Rapids, where they filmed Mighty Ducks. Actually,
Coon Rapids.
Yep, they filmed Mighty Ducks there.
Wow.
And then what else? You had Rick Rude. You've had the Road Warriors. Went to high school in there. Eric Bischoff ran through there. AWA, Vern Gagne, Jumpin' Jim Brownsell, Berserker. Man, there's so many Minnesota wrestlers. X-Pac, like Minnesota is, had a lot of great talents that have come through and still come through these local promotions. So,
why do you think that is? The cold weather? You gotta have something to do inside.
It could be. I mean, or they're out ice fishing or shooting a deer. I don't do any of that, but we love our cheese in Wisconsin, and we got that Minnesota rivalry. So.
There you go.
Because we have, I think, 3 promotions out of my hometown, which is Eau Claire, which is 2 hours south. And they're just as busy, and seems like everywhere has been selling out. Like, it's crazy how busy wrestling is in this neck of the woods. So, and then we got a North Dakota promotion that has ran a few times up in Duluth as well, and they're one of the top promotions out in North Dakota. So, I mean, I got friends everywhere. Selfless break. So
nice.
What about by you? Anything hotbed down there? Do you go to any of the indies?
I don't. So like I think like our independent was like when like TNA would run in Universal Studios.
Okay.
That's what I think about as our independence, because like I'm pretty close to like all the like the theme park area in Orlando. I haven't been. I don't think I've been to a wrestling show in Florida. I think the last one I went to was when I was still in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I've been to more like WWE shows than independent shows. I didn't even really think about it, like that they existed. It just wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't on my radar.
Yeah, I believe you have Fest Wrestling down by you, and then like my buddy, he's actually in Lakeland down there. And then my grandma, she's in Auburndale. So I've been to Florida a few times. Haven't been to an indie show down there, but I went to the WrestleMania
Yeah.
When they had that during the pandemic, that was a lot of fun. Thinking I was going to miss the bus, and when I finally found it, I was running through like some median thing, but they had those half-ass bush plants that you guys have down there. And I kept tripping over them because I didn't
Yeah.
want to miss the bus because
Yeah.
it was pulling out. And I keep pointing to my wristband, and she's pointing over to the other bus that was waiting for the stragglers. And I was like, oh, thank God. I don't know anybody in Tampa. How am I going to get home? So
Wait, this was during the pandemic, so the WrestleMania that didn't happen?
the WrestleMania that they brought the fans back to
Oh,
at
okay.
Raymond James there. Yeah.
Oh, the
So,
first 2-night event? Yeah, okay.
yep. So my grandma drove me
Wow.
to Tampa. My grandma's a badass. She's like 80 some years old driving her grandson to WrestleMania.
Nice.
But I went to the WrestleCon. Very scarce. So I actually got to talk to a lot of the wrestlers more than 10 seconds when you go to those type of things because there was hardly anybody there.
Mhm.
And they obviously have the numbers down because of the pandemic.
Sure.
So and then the bus took us right to the stadium. And then after you got to walk your half-mile back to the bus, I thought they took off, and I was only like a half hour after the show, and I thought they already left. I was like, that's crazy, but
Yeah.
never been so scared in my life. I was like, I'm gonna go sit by the cop and be like, when you're done helping all the traffic, you're helping me get back to my hotel. So,
Oh my God.
but luckily I found the bus and got back and got my pizza and finally went to bed because I didn't know what my food options were going to be the rest of the night. So.
Sure. I mean, we have like normal food like other places.
Oh yeah, but I like getting home at like 2 a.m. and or back to the
Wendy's
hotel at
is
2
always
a.m.
open. You can go to Publix.
Yeah, luckily
get a
there was
pub
one
sub.
just down the block because I had bought the Little Caesars $8 pizza at there. I was like, well, I'll take that back. Well, then it was raining during that thing, so it got soaked, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yuck.
I didn't prepare or bring groceries to the hotel while I was there, but
Oh, that would have been a good idea.
yeah, so. But yeah, it was quite the story, but everything worked out fine. So
Yeah, you're talking about going to the conventions. I've never been to prior to this weekend. I've never been to like any sort of fan convention. This weekend, I went to the Power Rangers convention
I'm
here in
so
Orlando.
jealous.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have
Ranger
the blue medallion Triceratops tattoo.
Oh, do you really?
I got to meet Billy Yost at that Twin Cities Con.
Yeah, David Yost. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's
He
my
wasn't
boy.
at this one, but Austin St. John was there.
Okay.
Walter Jones, Black Ranger. Then from the most recent series, the first female Red Ranger was there.
Oh, okay.
And then like a couple other of the actors. What was interesting was the actor strike just ended like last week. So if it had not, I don't know if they like even were allowed to do this or like they couldn't talk about their projects. So like they wouldn't be able to talk about Power Rangers. Like, I don't know. So thankfully that ended. It wasn't an issue, but I really wonder what would have happened.
All right, I got to put you on the spot. What's your favorite Power Ranger?
I mean, I was on, so I got to do a panel talking about collectibles while I was there, and we all had to say our favorite wrestler or our favorite Power Ranger, excuse me. And I was like, I'm a basic bitch when it comes to Power Rangers. Tommy all the way. Like from day one. From day one.
I mean, there isn't really a bad Power Ranger in that Mighty Morphin,
no, yeah.
Everybody is equally great, so I guess there isn't a wrong answer. But when you talk about Ninja Turtles, if you don't pick the right turtle, that's where I'll get a little feisty with you. But
well, that's all right. Well, let me ask you, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Raphael,
Okay, thank you.
Cool but rude. I got that tattoo too. So, and I actually got. Go ahead.
People will say like, "Oh, it's Donatello," and I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about, you nerd?"
I was just gonna say, you nerd.
No one ever picks Leonardo either. Like he's the leader, but like nobody wants to be that guy.
Yeah, it's always Mikey, like you said, Donatello, and I'm a Raph guy.
100%.
Again, selfless brag. Back to the Comic Cons. Sorry, folks, this isn't two. This is both shows all in one, but we got to go and meet the voice cast from the original '90s Turtles. And what was funny is they do those professional photos, but we didn't want to pay. For that photo, we were trying to it was the end of the day of the day one, and there was hardly anybody there, so we were trying just to get them all in a group. to save that extra $50, versus a professional photo. Well, their handler had to call and ask if it was okay. They're like, yeah, if they're the only ones asking, take it. Don't take any more. It's the end of day one, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So as we're there, people are kind of streaming up in it, up and down, getting the autographs and pictures with them individually. And what was cool was, like, say, the guy who played Donatello, if he didn't have anybody in his line, he'd come over and talk to us because he knew we were doing the group photo.
Yeah.
And we talked with him for a few minutes, and then he'd have an autograph. And then here comes the guy that did Leo. And then they just kept bouncing back and forth and like, hey guys, we're really sorry. We're trying to get this photo. I'm like, hey, we're in no hurry. This is like the best experience ever.
Sure.
You guys keep coming over to talking to us. I got to talk to Ron Paulson, the voice of Raph.
Yeah.
Showed him my tattoo. So he was pretty excited that I had the tattoo of him, and then we finally got our group photo. So then we're like the last ones out of the con. Security's like, you need to go. And our handler's like, no, they're with us. They're fine. We'll get them to the exit. So we're the last car going out of the parking ramp, and who happens to be walking across the street as we're pulling up to the stoplight? All four turtles. And the guy who voiced Michelangelo jumps on the hood of my buddy's car. He's like, you just killed a Ninja Turtle,
Oh my God.
And it was like, we put it on Facebook and people thought we actually got in a car accident. We're like, oh, context is probably, key here. But that was probably my favorite interaction with a celebrity. Randy, my buddy, that's another story. He'll probably be about celebrities. But and then I got to ask them during their panel if they could order pizza with their voices. So that was like the coolest experience with any celebrity or person I've ever met at a con. So
that's really cool. Yeah, not too many people probably get that experience. That's great.
Yeah, definitely when, just some older gentleman jumps on the hood of your car and just starts screaming, you killed a Ninja Turtle in his Michelangelo voice. So
oh my God. Are there real voices close to the turtle voices?
If you listen, some of them, like I want to say like Donnie, he's kind of got to change his voice. Ron Paulson, I mean, if you're watching Turtles, you hear Turtles, but if you're watching anything else, you could definitely hear it's him. When he does the Animaniacs, you can just, for me, I feel like I can hear. That was always my dream, was to draw cartoons or do voice acting.
Oh, nice.
When I was little, because of Police Academy, that guy was just on a whole nother level. And that's why most of my tattoos are cartoons, because I am a cartoon guy. I haven't grown up, so.
Well, that's our whole thing. We don't want to grow up.
That's right. And then, I'm jealous of your collectibles behind you. Mostly you can just see my books and a few toys, but
Yes.
But, well, we'll start to wrap this up. Folks, I apologize. This was more of just a sporadic collectibles and fandom. Paul, we'll definitely have to get you on to tell your full story of wrestling history, as well as get you on an episode of Show Me Collectibles. But where can people find you?
You can look up the Reluctant Adult Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and then, like the actual podcast. We do a podcast every week, and new episodes usually drop on Sunday. So find us wherever quality podcasts are served.
Perfect. And I'll get those links off of your social media, put those in the description as well, so people can find you. Paul, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to come on. Like I said, I love the reels on Instagram. I'm, sucker for the toys you guys break down. Yeah. And I do have to ask, like, whose idea with the arm thing? Like, when you guys, it feels like each one's different, your arm or the AI or whatever you have going on. Like, the first few times I was like, what is going on? And then I kind of smartened myself up. So
like, Photoshop introduced, this year everybody started doing AI stuff, and Photoshop introduced generative AI, and what I figured out was you could make the frame larger and then put yourself in the center, and it would try to like figure out what you were doing, and you could like put keywords in to make it make sense. So like I thought that would be a way of, like, when you're flipping through TikTok, the first like frame is so important because people will flip right by you. But if they see like something crazy, like I need to like give this a second look. So that was sort of the idea behind that. It takes a lot of work. Like, it takes a lot of time to do those. So like I've started putting like more effort into the actual edit. So I feel like the quality of the actual videos is better. But I always think about going back to those. I did that straight for like 2 months, and it was just it was a lot of work. So those exist. Like, if you go back through the videos, you can find like 2 months worth of content of those.
Yeah. Yeah, those are my favorite things to watch. Why the wife of Randy take a shot. That's an inside joke. While she's sleeping, I'll just be watching those reels because your knowledge on that toy stuff is just so interesting and fascinating. And don't take this the wrong way. I say it to a lot of my friends who also have podcasts. JD from Mayhem Media, as well as Mike D. Like, you have that voice for this. You know what I mean? Like, and it just sucks me in, soothing and all that.
How
So
did I take that the wrong way? That's
yeah,
the best
well, some
compliment
people
ever.
do. It's the
You're gonna
internet.
be like, I
People
have
are
a fake
crazy.
video. That's one thing, but
Yeah. So,
that's
all righty.
fine.
I appreciate your time. We'll play that exit, video with all the, sponsors so they can get their little 2 cents in too.
There we go.
And I appreciate you again. Everybody give them a like and follow. It's great content. All righty. Midwest goodbye here. Little Danhausen there. Hey, friends, thanks for tuning in to yet another exciting episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Q, a.k.a. my real name. Now let's jump into those sponsors, shall we? Make sure to check out ChefKeithFoods.com for all of your salsa needs. The best made fresh since 2019. Flavors include Ragin' Reaper, Hoppin' Habanero, Groovy Garden, and more. Check out that website today. Also, check out our friends over at Superior Creations for all of your custom tumbler needs. They are on Facebook.com/Superior Creations MN. Also, Darren Corbin, give him a like on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, Darren Corbin is on TikTok. And another great way to support Darren is by checking out patreon.com/Darren Corbin, where tiers start at just $1. Last but not least, make sure you give us a like and follow on all of our social medias as well. We want to thank you for being a friend of the Squared Circle. Tune in for more episodes. Also, if you want to get merch for yourself, you can check out friendsofthesquaredcircle.org for all of those needs. And it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out.